This royal throne of kings, this sceptred isle, this earth of majesty, this seat of Mars, this other Eden, demi-paradise, this fortress built by nature for herself against infection and the hand of war, this happy breed of men, this little world, this precious stone set in the silver sea, this blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England. Oh, yeah. Ever since the Industrial Revolution, the British people have done nothing but destroy this other Eden. We've poisoned the earth, raped the land, torn down our heritage, constructed vast architectural monstrosities, infected the streams, rivers and seas that surround us, rendered the apple inedible. Oops. And worse than this, we've turned our cities into the worst, most depressing, litter-strewn, festering sores imaginable. And to top it all, some selfish scumbags actually allow their animals to crap ton after ton of excrement onto our pavements. Oh, big deal, eh? I mean, why am I telling you? You people would eat shit if you were told to. You just don't give a hello. In case you're wondering who I am, I'm God, and this is heaven, which is exactly what you expected, really. It can get pretty boring, mind. Sometimes, when I'm bored, I make things. As a rule, I make cute, fairy little animals. But I can also make planets and that. Here's one I prepared earlier. Nice, isn't it? Very nice. Oh dear. What's that? Horrible, vulgar little island.
Britain. It's Britain, eh, Governor? You've made a right mess of it, ain't you, eh?
Well, I'll say. But why? It never used to be like that. But now it's so ugly. He's right. You see, sports fans, the eye is the most important sensory organ in the entire body. We see before we touch, taste, wear or buy. Thus, in our society, there's nothing more important than the look of things, the image. It's the look that makes us choose our clothes, our cars, our homes, and even our partners. And so why is it then, in a world packed to the rafters with creative people, we choose to literally surround ourselves with some of the most repulsive and hideous visual eyesores known to man? Architecture, the most complete synthesis of all the arts. The architectonic environment is supposed to contribute to the joy of man. Yet the ineptitude of architects, along with the low aspirations of man, has meant that our streets are so ugly that it only has to rain to make us feel tired, depressed, miserable and dirty. At the turn of the century, the Italian futurist movement suggested that all buildings should be impermanent. This way, every successive generation gets to build its own cities. It's a great idea. I mean, they had dreams of cities literally alive with dynamism, where everything was interesting. Oh, not them again. But when we get the chance in this country, the opportunity to build an entire city from scratch, what do we come up with? The visions of Albert Speer? No. Milton Keynes. Enough said. This is terrible, terrible.
If I might make a suggestion, I think you should hand them all over to me. I mean, they've been asking for trouble for years, haven't they, eh?
Hold on. You can't just hand them all over to him, boss. Lock, stock and barrel. I mean, they've had it pretty rough lately, haven't they? I mean, it's been one disaster after another.
Come on, that's no excuse, is it? I mean, if you want to be a third world country, you've got to have disasters, haven't you?
He's right, Pete.
No, as well as I do.
Yeah, but they're British, aren't they? I mean, they're apathetic dithers. Now, if they had a leader, then maybe they could do something genuinely dynamic.
Oh, come on, Gav. We all know you're not allowed to have a genuinely dynamic leader in a weedy little democracy, don't we? I mean, we all know that.
Yes, but All right, Pete, I'll give them one more chance. I'll give them a leader. Now, who can it be? What I want to know is why we make everything so visually boring. It's not as if we have to, but it's almost as if we don't care. Look at our clothes. Sleeveless duvet jackets and stack-heeled trainers. Nylon, rayon, Dacron, polyester, Kimpleen. Ugh! And look at our cars. Ye oldie combustion engine. They're no better. They used to be great. Loads of fins and runner boards, acres of gleaming chrome, or even wood, real wood. But we've turned them into shapeless, smooth, box-type things. For God's sake, a traffic jam should be like a visit to an art gallery. But look at them. They're all virtually identical. There's absolutely nothing to them. And the motorway, let's face it, the motorway has got to be one of the leading contenders for the title most boring thing on the planet. Official. Frankie, what's happening to me? The telly. Oh, there's never anything on it worth watching. Just chat shows and game shows and youth shows. Youth shows. They're just music, music, music. Don't they know that they invented the orchestra pit to put musicians in? Because they're so boring to watch.
People of Britain, it's time to realise our destinies. It's time to rise above this mire of visual pollution. It's time to tear down the old and erect something completely new. People of Britain, it's time to realise our dreams. Bring on the future.
That's my boy.
There's your leader for you, Pete. Why do they always have to get so hot-headed and fly off the handle like that? I mean, it's so childish. Seriously, though. You could say that visual pollution is a subjective thing. After all, one man's poison is another man's pleasure. But subjective or not, you've got to admit that we're being bombarded every second of the day, whichever way we turn, by visual pollution. But what can we do about it? Well, not a lot by the looks of things. I suppose you could always wear shades, especially if it's raining.
BBC One, 1982.
If you read poetry in the streets, you can be apprehended for causing a disturbance. We're talking about giving us space, giving us room. We're looking at derelict buildings. We're looking at things decaying. We're talking about new life, new vigour, putting life into these things. We want to do it. Where's the money? Ha! £20 a week. Doesn't even buy gin. What we want is something dramatic, for God's sake. We want passion. We want power.
And so, once more, erect on the summit of the earth, we hurl our defiance at the stars, and we spit. We spit on the altar of art. Marijuana, once thought to be a revolutionary drug, a social and creative force, now cripples the minds of the modern youth, inflicts the damage of stunted perception, and stabs in the lance of lethargy and guilt. Yet it's another consumer must for the unemployed kids, brought up on tribe rock and identity kits, and stabbing so often, murders so quick, and yet the existence of crime is positive proof of a fault in the line, a breach in the order, a sign for mankind, all here for you to see and act, but action redundant, the terrible fact. For the division of spirit, the argumentative wine is blunting the spear of our socialist goal. was a poem that was written 50 years ago. 50 years when we weren't even born, by a man known as Hugh McDermott. This poem is called The Belly Grip, and it is about hunger. Thank you. Come, let us put an end to one thing, now that science gives us the power, and make it impossible for any men to exercise for another hour. Any influence on other men, that depends on economic pressure to gain its ends.
I believe that poetry can no longer afford to be neutral, equally indifferent to right and wrong, knowing no pity or no anger. I believe that the only true poets should believe in purgative action.
The great arena of words is open before us. Words that must be fists, that can batter and beat, that can punch and rip. Words that must be used as the lance.
It was a case in Cirencester. I was beaten up there, people used chairs, I was attacked, I received 4 stitches, a black eye, bruised ribs. And I mean, it is very frightening. These people were people like the British movement, and it is very terrifying. Of course, afterwards, it becomes, once again, you realise that they've reacted. And in other words, for them to react violently, it means they must have been listening to the words that you were saying.
I now demand a poetry of such stride and passion that it should scorch the very surface of the planet if it were to be unleashed.
People were shouting, "What right have you got to demand?" And of course, my right is that I'm an artist, and so therefore, it is my right to be able to tell people exactly what I want.
But you can't expect people to like that, surely.
No. I don't expect them to like it, I expect them to listen.
Furthermore, I demand a poetry that is violently against nonsense, against the elitist child scrawl of the surrealist.
At the turn of the century, when people like Joyce and Eliot tried to change modern literature, they didn't know what they were talking about, and neither did anybody else, because the things that they wrote didn't make any sense. If it doesn't make any sense, I can't see the point in even bothering with it at all, you know? I don't give them any pity, I just despise them. I mean, there's enough of them in Bristol to make you throw, you know? I tell you, I wouldn't trust a surrealist as far as I could split a bus, Andy.
Come, let us finish this whole damn farce of law and order on murder based, on the power to coerce and starve and kill with all its hypocrisy, cruelty and waste. And safe from all human interference, give every man at least ample means to live.
I believe that people turn to rock and roll as a means of escapism. I also believe what the Ayatollah said, and that was Western pop music is turning young people's minds. People listen to it, it doesn't mean anything, it's just a tune that repeats incessantly and therefore is driven into the mind, and people just dance and clap to it. It means nothing, it has nothing.
See, sometimes it's a very difficult job to stand up here and to talk above hundreds of people that are talking back, and usually they're talking nothing but absolute drivel. Yeah, you can say like me, but I can do this, I stand here. There's more than you do.
I believe in victory, and I believe that I shall have victory at the end of the day. Definitely. I have no qualms. The poet's Templar will change society. The poet has the ability to change society. If he pulls his socks up and tightens his belt, if he rises early and works late, the poet will change the day. Anything else?
Come! Let us put a premium then on your example and persuasive force. Not that they're likely to carry far in maintaining present conventions, of course, since these all depend on the belly grip and will change completely when that's let slip. Come, let us transfer all moral issues and social relations to a higher plane, where men may agree that if they don't, can never be forced to submit again to the will of others by hunger and the want. It's time to end that sadistic cant. The belly grip.
Malcolm Bennett is the aesthete in Art Rage.
When I was a kid, I wanted to be an artist. I mean, why not? I was pretty useless at everything else. You know, I'd read all those books about Europe and their art movements and all these great cafes where the artists would hang out. But in Britain, there's no real cafes or pubs like that. If you're young and you're an artist and you want to go somewhere where you can meet other artists and exchange ideas, there's only really one place you can go: art school. From the very first cave drawings to today, art has been a visual record of an invisible history. It's man's interpretation of his times, and in that sense, its importance is immeasurable, and therefore, an art education is probably the best education in the world. As I speak, art schools are being made cost-effective. They want to harness their output to commercial ends. But let's face it, art's not about money. Money's just one of those things that take the fun out of shoplifting. Art is about culture, and culture is what separates man from the animal. For this government, art has become something merely to decorate our homes with. It's become something to print on a Marks and Spencer's frock. It's become a tool for industry. What they're saying is that it has to be commercially viable to be justified. Can you believe it? Square pegs are being made to fit into round holes. Individual character is being assassinated. I'm telling you, what they're doing to art education in this country is a threat to our way of life. Our entire civilization, strong words, but our culture is at stake. This whole overwhelming greed for money, it's frightening. And just imagine what an art school education is going to be like in the future if the people of this country don't get off their arses and fight.
That's it.
Hey, what's up with you?
I've had enough, mate. I'm not a number, I'm an artist.
Where are you going?
The future.
think you're doing, boy?
Designing a new £20 note, sir.
For Christ's sake, lad, you're here for the benefits of industry. If you don't buck up your ideas and come up with something we can sell, you're going to find yourself back on the dole.
But I'm an artist. It's the only way I know how to make money.
I was proceeding along in a southerly direction along the Queen's Highway when I happened to notice an extremely large pair of testicles pertaining to be a brooch, me lord.
And what did you do then, officer?
Why, naturally, I handcuffed the offending items and placed the artist under arrest.
Had someone complained about this brooch, officer?
Why, no, sir.
Yet you set yourself up as the arbiter of public taste?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Have you received any training in the arts?
Why, only the martial arts, my lord.
Yet you set yourself up as the arbiter of public taste.
I am an officer in Her Majesty's Constabulary, sir.
No further questions, my lord?
Call the accused. Hey, did you make that testicle brooch?
Yes, Your Honour.
Guilty!
But, my lord, counsel for the defence.
Get on with it then, son.
Thank you, my lord. Can you, in your own words, explain to the jury exactly why you made this testicle brooch?
Well, yes, sir. You see, as an artist, what I'm trying to do is explain
That's enough, counsel for the defence.
You are aware that this case is being tried under the common law, and therefore there is no artistic defence.
The drama that you've just been watching is actually based on a true story. On the 9th of February 1989, an artist was successfully prosecuted under the common law for outraging public decency. Now, this set a precedent, as up until then, Parliament had legislated under Section 2, Clause 4 of the Obscene Publications Act that any artwork deemed obscene should not be tried under the common law. And so now, however, any artist can be brought to trial simply on the opinion of any one person. So, exactly what is outraging public decency? Well, according to the Oxford Dictionary of the English language, the word outrage means a forcible violation of another's rights. A deed of violence, to subject to violence, to do violence to. So does this mean that to prove I'm outraged, I have to go out and beat up the artist? And if so, in 2 or 3 years' time, will assault with a deadly weapon be known as art criticism?
Yes.
Do you think that people find images of men far more offensive than images of women?
Oh, definitely, yes. You know, women are allowed to be portrayed naked, displaying their legs all over the place, from painting sculptures or indeed in magazines. I think especially when a woman paints pictures of naked men, it's taken as more offensive than if a man does it.
You do know that this charge carries a life sentence.
Look at it like this. After this ruling, every single poem, book, painting, photograph, performance or work of art is subject to the common law. The purpose, meaning or message of the artist is totally irrelevant. Now, it's all just down to one small thing. What makes you puke?
And welcome to another week's episode of What Makes You Puke? And tonight's guests, we have the world-famous artist, Aidan Hughes, the one, the only, Lee Bowery, and some kid. Right, gentlemen, you all know the rules, so let's get on with the show. Question 1. Which book did they try to ban in 1960?
We're going for Lady Chatterley's Lover.
Correct. Mr. Hughes, in front of you, you shall find a small deposit left by a famous actor. Who was he?
Divine? No, Divine's dog.
Correct. How big was the penis in Bronzino's An Allegory of Venus and Cupid?
1 inch.
Correct. Now, Mr. Hughes, you have 15 seconds to name as many offensive items as you can, and your time starts now.
The British film industry, Coca-Cola ads, Michael Jackson, moaning bastards on Right to Reply, youth programmes, tampon ads.
Well done, Aidan. You've scored 8 points. Now, Lee, you also have 15 seconds to name as many offensive items as you can, and your time starts now.
Rightio. I think that, that's not really offensive. It's quite funny at all. Oh, I hate that thing. Oh, it's not really offensive though. It's...
Oh, I'm sorry, Lee. You don't seem to have scored any points at all on this round. Now, James, your time starts now.
Right, the Sun newspaper, facial hair on women, people who play pool badly, politicians, yobbos, dog shit, vandals, waste, pop music, and Rick Astley.
I'm afraid you've gone over time there, James, and so you score no points whatsoever. That's all, folks, but remember to join us next week for another thrilling episode of What Makes You Puke. And remember, welcome to the 21st century.
And further, my lord, I put it to you that the law of this country has become a joke and a ruddy embarrassment to the good people of this nation. The law is now saying that it's a criminal offence simply to shock somebody.
It's true. It's now a criminal offence to simply shock somebody. And that's official. And it's hardly a job reference, is it? But worse than this, we the people are actually being denied the right to view the work of the artist of our choice. And that's an invasion of civil liberties. The law is now the enemy of the artist. But what can they do? What should they do? I'll tell you what they should do. They should firebomb their palaces. They should run riot in the streets. They should attack the law at every opportunity. Outrage? I hope so.
Oh! Who's that I see walking in these woods? Why, it's Little Red Riding Hood. Hey there, Little Red Riding Hood. You sure are looking good.
There wasn't much of anybody around as I moseyed up Main Street. The sound of lousy singing floated horrifically from the saloon as I parked my horse and went in. And the first thing I saw was her. Around the stage, 24... I'm just thinking about my American accent, don't worry about it. It's something I'll deal with on my own, okay? Yeah. The first thing I saw was her. Around the stage, 24 drunken shit-kickers were going crazy, and not for their singing, neither. The things she did with her hips were enough to make a man run out and get himself a fat old cow to poke. The hair and breasts were longer, but the voice could only belong to one woman, Betty Lou Rolls. Kind of fucked out for myself here because the next line's quite good. It goes, "Sure could do with some jokes around here." Yelled an old timer, finding his guns into me. I was into my 5th finger when she finished her set. And then she ran over and slipped her tits into my drink. "If it ain't him with a spoon," she panted throbbily, "you know you shouldn't come here." "Betty Lou Rolls," I said, fingering my red eye. It's been 9 years, 9 long years for me. "They don't call me Betty no more, him," she shuddered noisily. "I had to change my name after the thing you'd done to that pig. These days I'm known as Pussy Le Tubes." "Pussy," I said, rolling my tongue around it, and inserted 2 fingers in one swift movement. "That's a mighty pretty name." Just then she jerked me, roughly. "You shouldn't have come here, I tell you," she gasped, pushing me out. "If Big Red finds out you're here, he'll cut your head off, him." No big red dobber scares me, I roared, shooting off a load. That one-eyed snake, he's not that hard. I'll throttle him. Can't you leave it alone? She shouted. She shouted from behind their tits. It's been 9 years since you two fell out. I know it's been hard, the way you've been banged up, him. But he's sheriff now. He'll kill you. Let him try, I sneered, bursting through the bat flaps. I'll be waiting. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake in my hotel room, drinking, smoking, and sweating. I was thinking about how to get hold of Red Dobber when my thoughts wobbled back. Back to when I had pussy all to myself and Dobber and I were buddies. We stuck together through thick and thin, but then came that day. We'd robbed a payroll train near Fort Sierra when we got pinned down by a big posse. We were holed up till nightfall when Dobber plugged me from behind and, taking the money, left me for dead. But I didn't die. I was caught by the posse and banged up in a box for 9 years. And a day didn't go by in that stinking hole when I didn't think of that big red Dobber nestling up to my fucking pussy. A day didn't go by when I wouldn't swear I'd have my revenge, my money, and my woman back. So that morning, the sky was blood red and the birds were singing in the trees. Out on the street, a gaggle of young girls frolicked annoyingly as the townsfolk spilled from the church in their Sunday best. I moved away from the window and quickly buffed my chaps. Then, admiring the length of my piece, I thrust it firmly into its sheath and strode manfully from the hotel, tightening my saddlebags. Hold it right there with the spoon, growled a familiar voice from behind. You're under arrest. I whirled round to face the voice, my hand frozen above the butt of my gun. The frothing purple head before me told me everything. It was Sheriff Big Red Dobber himself, his 12-gauge levelled at the lapels of my double-breasted pants. I've come for my money, Red, I sneered, and I aim to get it. No one carries a gun on Sundays, Dobber went, blasting a hole in the air. Now drop 'em. I did it quick. I've got you just where I want you now, he roared, blowing another hole in the air. I'm gonna break you. I'm gonna bust your ass so bad that you're gonna crawl to me and beg to eat the saloon spittoon with a spoon. I knew right then that he'd blown off his full load, so I sprang up to him and launched a law-flooring poke to Dobber's brains. Quickly, the townsfolk rushed over and formed a cheering circle around us in which I punched, kicked, hung, bit and killed him. The crowd gasped as I clambered up onto his body and, tearing the star from his shirt, shit and pissed into his mouth. And then, just then, Pussy ran over and brazenly flattened their front against my huge, blood-splattered chest. I've got the money, she shrieked. I looked hungrily at her soft, young blouse as it fought vainly to tame the two huge, struggling orbs beneath it. I thought wildly about her hot pubic mound enveloping mine as her hips writhed against me. Her full, moist lips parted and a frantic tongue lashed out toward me as she smashed her mouth into mine. I threw her off brutally and backed away, wiping the blood from my lips. She crouched before me, an untamable, wild animal. Do you know, it's seeing Pussy spread out like that, I thought, that'd make any man come too early. The end. Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Oh! Who's that I see walking in these woods? Why, it's Little Red Riding Hood. Hey there, Little Red Riding Hood. You sure are looking good. You're everything.
Funk. Click. Plop. Thunk. Thump. Click. Clap. Cliff Thorburn, 1. Jimmy White to play. Thwack! Plop, 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 plop. Gasp! Squeak, 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 squeak. Thwack! Thunk! Thunk, 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 thunk. Click. Plop. Actually, it says rattle. Plop. Gasp! Squeak, squeak, squeak. Thwack! Smack! Plonk! Gasp! Clap! Cough! Frame to Jimmy White. The end.
Big bad wolf could want. Oh! Who's that I see walking in these woods? Why, it's Little Red Riding Hood. Hey there, Little Red Riding Hood. You sure are looking good. You're
This one's called Pub Hawk. It's a bit of a war story. So if you know, you'd have a delicate indisposition, you might not want to listen to this one because it's a bit scary. And this is written by that dead famous fella, Flight Lieutenant Douglas Lager, DSO, in Bar. Okay, so, and this goes like this. It's probably going to be dead cheesy, this one, I can tell you. Suddenly, Wing Commander Tom Wallacey sprang into the mess. "It's war!" he screamed in upper class. The men mumbled and stared in their goggles, their scarves dangling heroically in their beer. Quickly, I stuffed back a Lagerfield and lurched boldly onto the bar. "Lads! Pies, pubs, pints, and scramble!" We did it. 10 planes took off. Magnificently, we flew them up. While I was driving, I ripped out a bottle of scotch, tore the head off and plugged it in. "Ah," I went, "combat." Then, when I woke up, there were fuckers everywhere. "Shit," I screamed and put my foot down. Lead hit my cockpit. I plunged into a cloud. The fuckers plunged after me. I dove over Dover, flew over France, and landed in London for lunch. But I couldn't shake them off. Back in the sky, they were driving around all over the place. Later, I got fed up and crashed. When I woke up, I was being punched in the head quarters of the German army. They wanted my name, rank, and number. They got them fast. Then the one with the beer opened a bag and took out a leg. My leg! I could tell by the cock at the top. What they did to my other leg is enough to make the hairs in your beer stand up. The end.